For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's Monday morning press conference with Clay Helton. Now, Shotgun, before we get into the press conference itself, we have to talk about the news that broke over the weekend. First off, the LA Times broke a story involving Mclean and the reasoning around his suspension. The Times suggested that the reason why he was suspended was because he applied for pandemic unemployment assistance. And then Munir and his family actually had a press conference on Sunday talking about the situation. They alluded to the fact that they feel like they've been slighted by USC. And so USC, for their part, released a statement on Sunday saying that they don't want to go into private matters with students, involving students, but the families are free to talk to the media if they want to do so. And then Clay Helton was asked about the situation today on Monday and didn't really want to go into it, which is par for the course for Clay Helton. But what did you take away from everything that's happened so far, Shotgun?
Yeah, I mean, it's a product of us not being able to talk to anyone for, since last Thursday. There's been a lot that's developed in this story as well as on the field for USC. They had practice Thursday. They're in the Coliseum Friday and Saturday. We're now just getting to talk to Clay Helton about all those practices and the Munir Mclean situation on Monday morning. The Munir Mclean situation, Clay Helton, before anyone could even ask him, before he was even prompted, he said, "I cannot and I will not comment on the situation," which is par for the course for him. Just like you said, it's what he's always done with these type of situations that are in the university hands or above. And it's interesting, this situation, there's federal subpoenas, there's federal agents showing up to players' doors and stuff. So it's a serious matter. So we'll see what kind of develops from it. And, obviously it looks like there's more to this than, a violation of team rules, the ubiquitous violation of team rules that we always hear about for a player getting suspended. This seems to be a little bit more drastic situation.
Yeah, like you said, it seems like there's more to this, and we'll keep you updated as we get those updates, but it's still evolving for sure. Now, as far as to what's happening on the football field, like you said, Shotgun, there was a scrimmage over the weekend. Clay Helton said that on Thursday, after he talked to us after that morning press conference, they had a pads practice, and the offense got the better of the defense, and then the defense kind of settled the score, made it even in Saturday's morning scrimmage in the Coliseum. He said that they were able to set the tempo. It seemed like Clay Helton was alluding to the fact that the defense played much better in USC's second scrimmage than the first scrimmage. What were your takeaways from that 81-play scrimmage that Clay Helton described?
I mean, first off, let's start with the number of plays. USC runs 81 here. I think they were in 60 or so the first scrimmage. Arizona ran 110 on Saturday. So other schools are getting more in. Now, they've often talked about doing stuff in short bursts, but you wonder if there's some depth concerns in certain positions that are making them kind of scale back a little bit on the number of plays that you actually want to be able to throw at, because especially this scrimmage in particular, the second scrimmage of the fall camp, you want to go all out and get as many plays in as you can. You want to get as many reps for everybody, study that tape, and then be able to build that depth chart this week as you go into mock game week, as it's been referred to before. And Clay Helton was a little tentative to call it that this year for some reason. But when you go into mock game week, you want to kind of establish the depth chart, even if you don't release it to the media. And then you can begin your full prep for your opponent that the next week after that. But you start on that a little bit this week. Clay Helton talked about that a little bit as well, about how they needed to start prepping for Arizona State this week. To do half Arizona State prep and half, continuing to work on themselves. But you look at that on that side for the scrimmage. You also look at the fact the defense played better and did it without defense coordinator Todd Orlando, who Clay Helton said was not there, had to attend to a personal matter, I believe back in Texas. So he was not with the team. So Craig Nivar actually took over, I guess, the play calling duties for the defense. And filled in admirably, I guess, because we can't see it, so we can't tell for sure ourselves. But the fact that the defense came out ahead, according to Clay Helton, or we just give the credit to Gavin Morris because he's the ultimate hype man for USC, and he's usually with the offensive guys. And he said that he decided to switch over to defense, according to his social media on Saturday. So we'll give Gav a little credit too.
Sure, that works. Now, I just thought it was interesting because Helton said this past Saturday that it was much more scrimmage-like than the first scrimmage, which was 60 plays. Just trying to read in between the lines of how things went. It just seemed like USC definitely, their offense played better on last Saturday. He said there were a lot of explosive plays. And then this Saturday, Clay Helton credited Nivar and Dante Williams for coverage adjustments and making sure to limit those explosive plays. So if you read between the lines, it kind of sounds like, okay, the offense definitely played much better the first scrimmage, and now the second scrimmage, the defense kind of caught up in that sense.
Yeah, and it's interesting because normally a defense is ahead early in camp, and then it starts to evolve and the offense will catch up. But when you have a first-time defense, new defensive coordinator, new defense versus an offense that's established, an offense that doesn't take long to implement and put it in, so the players are pretty, know their offense, know the offense really well. Maybe that's what we're seeing, where the offense is a little ahead to begin with, and now the defense is catching up. I think from the little bit of media that we received, from the visuals and from the video, we didn't see any big, wide open guys going for a touchdown, big busts on the back end. It was some contested catches and stuff that players went up and made. And, Clay Helton gave credit to Dante Williams and Craig Nivar for the secondary doing a better job on those deep balls and stuff in this practice on Saturday. And he credited the pass rush, because if you can get to the quarterback and move the quarterback off his platform, then obviously that changes a lot of things, and he gave credit there as well.
Mm-hmm. Like you alluded to, Shotgun, Clay Helton kind of gave us a preview of what's coming up next. USC finished their quote-unquote Hell Week. There's tough 6 days. And Helton said that it's a mix of still in a training camp mode, but then practicing for Arizona State, kind of prepping for them. He, like you said, Shotgun, he was like, he didn't want to mention mock game week, and then kind of towards the end of his answer, he mentioned the infamous phrase of mock game week, which we've talked about. Maybe that's why he didn't want to talk about it, because we talk about mock game week so much. But I just thought it was interesting. They're kind of transitioning into that. And Helton did say, like, the third scrimmage this upcoming Saturday is not going to be really tough. It's going to be a lighter scrimmage. So we're kind of getting into the usual Clay Helton timeline, what we see right before season opening, where they pull it back a little bit. They're going into a mock game week type of situation, and then they'll head into game week. What were your takeaways from, you see this peak in training camp, and it sounds like we're coming down from that peak?
You got to be really concerned if you're a USC fan, because we've heard about how these are the physical practices. We've heard about how the energy the defense is bringing, and, you kind of get excited and say, okay, maybe they've turned over a new leaf. But if now that's the peak is on Saturday and now you're going downhill from there, have we turned, was that Hell Week, or is this a Helton camp? That's a, better way to look at it and try to figure out is this just more the norm, and you just moved up, the toughest week? Because previously it was mock game week. The practices during the week would be really tough going into that third week of scrimmage. And then the third scrimmage is all backups. A lot of the starters in the past did not spend much time on the field to avoid injuries and stuff going forward. And you're trying to figure out, and Clay Helton even mentioned that the spots that they're really looking at now are the second string and the third string guys. So is that what the case is going to be on Saturday when they go scrimmage in the Coliseum? Is it going to be, it's all twos and threes against each other, all the ones basically get the day off? We'll see. I think that there's real concern for you USC fans. You've been excited about what the new defensive staff has brought and the energy and intensity, and is it going to now decline like we've seen in the past with Clay Helton teams?
Mm-hmm. And it seemed like he was alluding to that himself. So just something to watch for. I know we won't be able to see it, but at least try and pick up on it over Zoom press conferences. It was an interesting Zoom for sure, Shotgun. It was a little low energy a little bit, since we had to ask about Mclean and we can't really see anything. We did get some more personnel updates. We learned that Josh Jackson is also injured or slightly injured, even though Clay Helton did say that they came out of the 81 play scrimmage without any major injuries. So some bumps and bruises, as Clay Helton likes to say. And then we did get an update about Raymond Scott. We were wondering, he's kind of been a tweener guy between safety and linebacker. Where is he fitting into this defense? And Clay Helton actually said that he is now with the inside linebackers. What do you take away from that development, Shotgun?
I think he's a better fit as a linebacker. And I think that despite his stature, he's not the tallest guy, but he's a tackling machine. If you put him in the right position and let him just go make plays, that's all he did at Narbonne High School. So I would not be surprised if they left him there, if he's a guy that can make his way up the depth chart and make some moves and earn some playing time, especially if Tyler Lando does sub as much as he's talked about and rotate a little bit more than Clancy Pendergast did. I don't know if that's going to happen immediately. We'll see that. It might depend on Kanai Malga and where he's at, because he obviously has not practiced. The two inside starting linebackers have been Palia Naitiote and Raylan Goforth. more praise for Palia and Axiote again today for Clay Helton. And Raylan Goforth got some praise as well. Tuasivi Nomura has been getting some praise as well. We've seen him in the clips that the little bit of clips that we get and photos that he's been making some plays as well. He's been involved in a lot of the action. So maybe Raymond Scott moves up and he's in that mix as well, because Danny Lockhart, the walk-on from St. John Bosco, has actually been getting some second-team reps. So if he's in there, then maybe you want to move Raymond Scott and see what he can do because of the depth issues you have. And as Clay mentions almost every press conference that we have with him now, that you never know when you're going to lose some guys to COVID or injuries or whatnot. So you got to coach from the bottom up, and you got to make sure that you have get really deep at certain positions to fight off, or in all positions, to fight off the potential of being shorthanded. And that's what you're seeing. You talk about Josh Jackson on the wide receiver group, because we haven't really discussed it, because obviously there's so much talent at that top end with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Vaughn, Drake London, Brew McCoy coming up. They only have 5 guys. The only other guy to add to that is John Jackson III, that are healthy right now, scholarship guys. The rest, you either have walk-ons or you have guys that are suspended or injured right now. So Gary Bryant is not practicing. Josh Jackson's not practicing. Kyle Ford's out for the season. You look at Mclean, he's out. So where are you going to turn to if you have some injuries there? You're going to move a wide receiver. I mean, you're going to change your offense. You're going to do more 2 tight end sets. You're going to move a tight end out. It's going to be very concerning if you have another injury there, or if you have an unfortunate case of a positive test and some contact tracing or something, and suddenly you lose 2 guys. You're going to have to make some changes there. So that's one position of to keep an eye on that we haven't talked much about, but could be of concern if they don't get some guys healthy.
Yeah, that's a great point, Shotgun. It's kind of like that. I feel like that's different position groups for this whole 2020 team, where they're not in dangerous territory, but they're very close to dangerous depth issue territory. So just something to watch out for. But like I said, Shotgun, it was an interesting Zoom today. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Looking at it, I thought one of the most interesting thing was that Todd Orlando wasn't there, but the defense played better. So I think that was really interesting. I think when you're looking at putting together the roster and seeing where the 2 deep is at this point, that's going to be the question marks. And this might be the week to determine that. And one of those 2 deep elements that's kind of was pointed out is Clay Helton was talking about the safety group, and talking about the group with Greg Johnson being in there with Isaiah Pulamau and Talanoa Hufunga, and he called it a 3-spoke safety group. But he was excited to see the depth that they have there, and he said there's no lack of production when the second group comes in. And he talked about the second group being Max Williams, Chase Williams, who we kind of expected to be in that group, and walk-on grad transfer Micah Kroom, actually, from Dartmouth. He's actually in that second group over some of the scholarship safeties, the young scholarship safeties USC has, Britton Allen, Kaulana McCullough, and Raymond Scott before he made the move. So interesting to see that one of the walk-ons has moved his way up the depth chart and is in that 2 deep right now.
Yeah, interesting for sure. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for Monday's press conference. We have an interesting slate of people coming up for our Zoom press conferences. Tuesday will be tied
interesting.
What's the shade for, Shotgun?
Interesting. Let's see. The offensive line has been the biggest question. It's been asked about every single press conference. We still have not talked to Tim Drevenow. Now, we've talked to a couple of the offensive linemen. The defensive line, Vic Soto is the new defensive coach, getting a lot of rave reviews from everyone around him. Still have not talked to him. These are the 2, big position groups that have big depth battles for positioning going into the season, and yet we're not talking to those coaches. Are we just saving them for next week before the game? I mean, I would want to talk to them next week too, but it just seems odd that we're getting the tight ends coach and special teams coach.
Yes, that's what
I beat you to it. Go ahead. Now, who are we getting this week?
I think you took care of that one, Shotgun. But yes, it'll be interesting talking to some of the less coveted or we wanted to talk to other people is basically what we're saying, but we'll talk to special teams coach Sean Snyder. We'll get a better sense of that, and we'll let you know. How about that, Shotgun? You don't want to.
Hey, I am interested to talk to Sean Snyder.
Yes,
I am.
Exactly.
I have some special teams questions, obviously, but I would rather talk about the defensive line than special teams at this moment.
True. Your spiciness flustered me. That's what's happening right now.
And Clay Helton did say that this scrimmage was the first time they really got to see the special teams in full action, and get to see all the units going full speed and everything. So maybe Sean Snyder will have some interesting things to say coming off of the scrimmage, but maybe give him another week and have 2 weeks of full speed, full units practice to talk about. That'd be great too.
Basically, this is a shotgun rant session. I should wrap this one up. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for Shotgun Spratling. I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.